Hey everybody, it's Uncle Reddit. Welcome to an episode of Malicious Compliance, where people get exactly what they ask for. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. Open this effing door, you four-eyed twit. Okie dokie. Hi there, long-time lurker, first-time poster. On mobile, so please be gentle. Too long didn't read at the end. I deliver home heating oil in a very rural and mostly flat part of the UK. In my delivery area, there are many large drainage channels, or dikes in the local lingo. The roads are often very narrow and single track and frequently run alongside these dikes separated only by a narrow grass verge, no safety barrier. Anywho, this one day in the depths of winter, it was below freezing, there had been a light spattering of snow and there was a thin scum of ice on the water in the dike. I had just finished doing a customer's delivery and was winding in the hose prior to collecting payment and departing. My truck was completely blocking the road as there was nowhere for me to pull it off the road. We are limited by the length of delivery hose. Blocking the road is common and legally acceptable as long as we work quickly and safely. So, I was just waiting for the customer to finish writing the check for their oil when this large Mercedes car pulls up behind my truck and the driver immediately starts leaning on the horn and shouting and swearing and shouting at me to move that effing truck out of the way now. My usual response when faced with similar behavior is to blank the swearer and pretend they don't exist. Being 6'3" and 285 pounds helps keep most people at bay. I ignored Mr. Shouty Man and finished up with my customer. The customer said to me, "Ignore him. He's well known in the village for being a bit of a dick." I said goodbye and got into my truck. As I was putting away my paperwork prior to driving off, I happened to glance on the driver's side mirror, the same side of the truck as the dike, and saw Mr. Shouty Man storming up the side of the truck with a tire iron in his hand. Oh crap, thinks I, and immediately hit the central locking button, locking myself in the cab. Next thing I know, Mr. Shouty Man has climbed onto the step and is hanging off the mirror arm with one hand and brandishing the tire iron with the other, all while shouting, "Open this door, you four-eyed C!" I wear spectacles for driving. Oh, the wit of the man, lol. Cue malicious compliance. He told me to open the door, so I did. But as I did so, I kicked it open. He lost his grip on the mirror arm and was flung backwards into the dike, up to his chest in freezing cold, filthy water. I calmly started my engine and drive off. As I left, I looked in the mirror to see this guy floundering around chest deep in the icy water, dressed in a business suit. I called the customer who had witnessed everything and happily said that they would give a statement to whoever needed one confirming I acted in self-defense. Then I made a fairly difficult call to my boss and told him what had happened, and he said, "I'll be awaiting his call with interest." No bullocking, nothing. When I got back to the yard that evening, I asked my boss what had happened and apparently no call of complaint was made that day or ever. That is my story. Please be gentle. Too long didn't read, got threatened by violent motorists. Obeyed his instruction, which caused him to fall into freezing water. Don't interrupt me when I'm on the phone. So I was working at a locally owned cell phone repair store, and although I was the only person at this location who had any knowledge of phones, the owner's sister had been given the title of manager. A little background on the owner's sister. Let's call her Meg. She was 37 at the time and had never moved out of her parents' house. I had talked to her about this before, and it goes way beyond what you might be thinking. She had never done her own laundry, she didn't know how to cook, she had only just got her license to drive a couple years prior. The idea of moving out stressed her out because she didn't know how bills worked or who to call if she got hurt. You get the idea, right? She had been fired from every job she'd ever had for being on her phone at work. Despite being a manager at a cell phone repair store, she couldn't tell an iPhone 4 from an iPhone 8. This woman made rocks look smart. Anyways, on to the malicious compliance. She often made mistakes when giving people quotes or information on the phone, and I would do my best to quietly give her the correct info. Sometimes she was very grateful for the help, and other times she would shush me. Well, one day it was really bad and she kept giving out inaccurate information, which was costing us repairs because people would drive to the store and I would give them the actual price, which was different than what they had heard on the phone. They assumed bait and switch, but really it was just ignorance on Meg's part. I admit I was probably a little frustrated with her, and that may have come across in my tone despite how patient I was trying to be. I corrected her once again on the info she was giving over the phone, and she snapped at me to never interrupt her again. About half an hour later, she got a phone call on her cell phone. She looked confused, but that was nothing new. I wasn't concerned until I saw her rummaging through her purse while talking to this person. She pulled out her social security card and gave them the number. I tried to get her attention, but she just glared daggers at me, so I sat back down and shut up. This phone call lasted close to half an hour. She gave them her current and past addresses, her credit card number, her password, her PIN. She spelled out her name for them, it's very long and very Greek, and even gave them her home phone number. I quietly sat through all of this and just kept working on the phone I was repairing. When she finally got off the phone, she turns to me and says, "That was the weirdest phone call. AT&T needed to verify my information." I said to her, "Why is that weird?" She said, "Well, I have T-Mobile." My jaw dropped. Like, I knew she was stupid, but this was the moment I really understood that. I then told her she needed to call her brother because her identity had just been given away on a silver platter. Now crying, she says to me, "He's gonna be so upset. My identity's already been stolen twice this year." Too long didn't read. Manager told me not to interrupt her on the phone ever again, then proceeded to give all her personal information away to scammers while staring daggers at me. Oh my gosh. Oh, makes rocks look smart. No noise after 10 p.m. I work in the theater industry, the live entertainment type, and was doing a freelance gig as a carpenter building a set. As normal, the budget was 50% less than it needed to be, and I had to do in 2 days what should have taken a week. I get paid a day rate, so regardless of how long I'm there, I get the same amount. But the rate agreed was very good, so it was worth going the extra mile and putting in the hours. So I started early, worked through breaks, and finished late. On the second day, I had just a couple of things to join together with bolts, a simple 5-minute job right at the end of the day. But it was late, about 11:30 p.m. The venue had a noise curfew at 10 p.m., which is designed for the rock concerts playing live music at loud volumes. However, the venue's manager, who had only been working there about a month, was very insistent that I was making too much noise with my tools. It was his first experience of a show being put in. The previous production was already open when he joined. Manager: "You can't make any noise after 10 p.m. We have a noise curfew here." Me: "The noise curfew is set at 90 dB, and there's a meter on the wall over there to monitor it. My tools aren't registering over 75 dB. I always work late like this on these shows. Sometimes I'm here until 4 or 5 a.m. if I need to be to make sure everything is ready." Manager: "No, you aren't allowed to make any noise after 10 p.m. You have to stop what you're doing." Me: "But you're making noise talking to me. I don't think you'll find it any noise. It's 90 dB. I have this one last job to do and then I'm going home. It's going to take 15 minutes at most." Manager: "That's not possible. You have to stop now." Me: "Are you sure about that? They really want this set finished so they can rehearse here tomorrow. If I have to come back tomorrow, then it's going to be very inconvenient for everyone, and for no reason." Manager: "You can't make any noise, so it'll have to wait." So I did as I was told, packed away my tools, and came back in the morning. The next day, the producer was more than a little annoyed, but I explained the issue with the manager. He instructed me to finish building the set, which I did in about 10 minutes. I then took great pleasure in handing the manager my invoice for 3 days' work, even though I'd been there for probably less than a half hour. It was perhaps a little churlish of me, but the point is, I could have had to cancel another job to come in on the third day. Besides, the rule says I get paid day rate regardless of how long I'm needed. The manager realized his mistake when he spoke to their technical director, and I never had to stop working late again. My boss said I didn't go above and beyond. So I was a bartender at a small chain restaurant. I'm also a student, and I hope to be a pharmacist one day. As such, I was looking to make a career change from bartender to pharmacy tech, so I can get to know the industry. I had made this intention very clear to my boss. I even told him in my interview. I had given this bartending job a solid year. This place had a very high turnover rate. After only 1 year, I was the most experienced bartender there. If that doesn't indicate how much stuff this job makes you put up with, I don't know what will. However, I thought my boss and I were close. I asked him for a letter of recommendation so I could start applying for pharmacy technician jobs. In this conversation, I basically gave him 2 months' notice. More than fair. This dude had the audacity to say, "I'm not sure you've earned a letter of recommendation. You really don't go above and beyond." I don't go above and beyond. I once babysat his kids for free when his babysitter had an emergency and there was no other manager to replace him. I've missed study groups and extra credit opportunities to cover shifts when needed. I've stayed overnight by myself to deep clean the bar. Oh boy, was I mad. I went to the corporate website and printed out the job description for bartenders. Was it enlightening? Turns out most of their restaurants have hosts, barbacks, and janitors that pick up the phone and do most of the cleaning. We don't, and the only cleaning our job description specifies is glassware. Job description in hand, I got to work, or lack thereof. Phones ringing? Not my job. Floors need to be mopped? That sucks. Every time my boss asked me to perform a task, I'd furrow my brows and start intensely reading my job description before answering, "Nope, too above and beyond for me." The best part is, I'm only one of 4 bartenders in a restaurant that's open from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day. They physically couldn't afford to fire me without all the other bartenders leaving as well. This lack of control really bothered him. I saw him start to realize how badly he messed up, but I wasn't done yet. Apparently, according to corporate policy, we have to make every drink using jiggers. This almost doubles the time it takes to make drinks. Up until then, I and everyone else had chosen to ignore this policy. But then we had a party of over 100 come in, and both of the coworkers I was supposed to be working with called off. This seems like the perfect time to abide by corporate policy. I started painstakingly making every drink with a jigger, one by one. Drinks barely trickled out, and complaints soon started trickling in. My manager asked me what the F was I thinking. I pulled out my job description and told him that going against corporate wishes was a little too above and beyond. His shoulders slumped in defeat. We both knew there was nothing he could do. He started doing all the bartending on the service well himself, and let me casually take the seats. Best part is, I get a percent of all the drinks that he made. I got a job soon after, despite my lack of a letter of recommendation. 2 more of my coworkers did too. According to my last remaining coworker, they are still struggling to find solid employees. He still texts me often asking me to cover shifts. Sorry if this is long and all over the place. The situation really upset me and I'm not one to get upset. Yeah, OP, I've worked in places like that before. Sometimes you're just gonna have one of those bosses that just doesn't play well with others. Refuse to contribute to the coffee fund? No more coffee then. Sorry this is a bit long, but I really needed to tell this story. I work as a mechanic at a manufacturing plant in nowhere America, and have been for over a decade now. Before I got assigned to my current location, the only way to get coffee here was to either bring some from home or pay $1 at a vending machine to get the crappy cheap stuff. I decided to go with the first option, but took it even further by bringing my spare coffee maker from home and then bringing in the usual supplies periodically. I kept it in the mechanic's office in plain view. For the longest time, it was very apparent that I was the only one using my coffee maker, even though I never said it was exclusively for me. This went on for about a year until I got a partner on my shift who also drank coffee. We came up with the idea of starting a coffee fund by leaving a jar of spare change next to the coffee maker. Whenever we ran out of something like sugar or whatever, one of the 2 of us would use the accumulated change in the jar to help replenish our supplies. This was all well and good until my partner got promoted to maintenance supervisor some years later, making him my new boss, and I was by myself again. I left the jar sitting next to the coffee maker as usual and kept using the old routine. I also put a note on the side of the maker in plain view that said, "If you use the coffee maker, please put some spare change in the coffee fund jar so we can keep the supplies in stock." This was just in case someone from a different shift decided to use it when I wasn't there. However, one day I noticed that I was running out of sugar way too fast. I don't put much sugar in my coffee to begin with, so this told me that someone else was using the coffee maker. Eventually, I noticed that all the supplies were getting too low too fast, and not just the sugar. This normally wouldn't be a big deal, except I also noticed that the jar wouldn't accumulate like it used to either. It either had the change I put into it, or someone would be taking the change out but not restocking our coffee supplies. I put up with this for a little while, but I eventually got fed up with being the only one buying supplies for the coffee, while 1 or more others were using it and taking the money out of the jar. I took the coffee maker home and just started filling up my thermos with coffee and bringing it to work with me. About a week later, I get stopped in the aisle by a supervisor, not mine, as I'm trying to leave for the day. The following exchange occurs. Me is me, Saul, not his real name, is Supervisor. Saul: "Hey OP, what happened to the coffee maker? Did it break?" Me: "I was wondering who else was using it." "Nah, it didn't break. I just got tired of people taking money out of the coffee fund jar without using said money to buy more supplies. I was still buying them out of pocket." Saul: "You took it home?" Me: "Yeah, I've just been using my thermos to bring coffee." He cuts me off. Saul: "You can't just take company property like that. You weren't the only person using it. We all used it." Me: "But it's my..." He cuts me off again. Saul: "You either bring that back or I'm reporting this to boss, and we'll see what he's going to do about it." Me: "I'll bring it in if people will actually contribute to the fund, instead of me having to buy everything out of pocket." Saul: "You'll do your job." Me: "My job is to fix these machines, not be the company barista." Saul: "It better be in here tomorrow or I'm going to my boss about it." He walks off before I could say anything else. The next day comes and I, of course, didn't bring my coffee maker back to the plant. At the end of my shift, Saul confronts me again. Saul: "OP, did you bring that coffee maker back?" Me: "Nah, I told you I'm not going to be the only one supplying it." Saul: "You can't just keep company property at home. That coffee maker has been in there for years. You need to bring it back." Me: "I know it's been in there for years. It's been in there for as long as I've been here, because I brought it from home. That's my coffee maker." Saul: "I'm calling boss right now. We'll see what happens to you." Me, laughing: "Go ahead, I don't care. You can't tell me what to do with my personal property." I then walk out to my car and leave. While on my way home, boss calls me. If you recall from earlier in this story, he used to be my partner. Even after his promotion, we remained close friends. The following conversation happens. Bob, not his real name, is my boss, former partner, close friend. Me, picking up the phone. "Hey Bob, what's up?" Bob: "I just got off the phone with Saul. What's all this about you taking company property home? That's not like you, man. What's he even talking about?" Me: "He didn't tell you what it was?" Bob: "Nope. He just said you admitted to stealing company property and refused to return it." Me: "Did you even ask what the supposed company property is?" Bob: "I did, but he wouldn't calm down enough to tell me. Look like you really ticked him off." Me: "Yeah, I know. Hey, you remember that coffee maker I had in the office way back when?" Bob: "Haha, yeah, the coffee fund, right? Did anyone else besides us start using that thing? Man, did I ever tell you that I still haven't had a cup of coffee as good as you made it back then? Why are you bringing this up anyway? Wait, don't tell me that company property Saul's referring to is..." Me: "Yeah, he's talking about my coffee maker." Bob: "Look, OP, I know it's your personal property, but I really don't want Saul raising a stink about this to management. Nothing will come of it if he does, but it'll just be a big waste of time for them to investigate and eventually write up some stupid company-wide email about property theft and blah blah blah. Just bring it back." Me: "I'm not going to be the only one supplying the coffee." Bob: "How about this? Bring it back in, but keep a spare set of coffee supplies in your personal locker. Bring in some supplies for everyone else to use at first. Even use the coffee fund jar again. But after that initial stock, just only resupply for yourself. That way, if Saul or anyone else wants to use it, they are going to have to bring in their own supplies when that initial stock runs dry. Is that okay with you?" Me: "I think I'll do that." And that's what I did. The next day I did as Bob asked, but I also kept additional supplies for myself in my personal locker. I didn't tell anyone about this except for Bob. Saul confronted me yet again that same day. Saul: "I see you brought the coffee maker back." Me: "Yeah, Bob asked me to." Saul: "You're lucky he didn't report you to HR for it." Me: "Report me to HR for a coffee maker? Yeah, okay." Saul: "Whatever. Now we can all have our coffee again. No thanks to you." Me: "No thanks to me, yet it's my coffee maker." Saul: "Don't get that tone with me. I'll call Bob and he'll straighten you out again." As planned, I let the initial coffee supply stock run dry without ever replenishing it. I also didn't contribute anything to the coffee fund jar. This took about a week, and there was never any change in the jar. Saul confronts me yet again. Saul: "Hey OP, we're completely out of creamer and sugar, and the coffee tin itself is running low." Me: "Yeah, okay." Saul. Don't you think you should get on that? Me. I'm not the company barista, Saul. Saul. Okay, but we don't have any creamer nor sugar. Me. Then buy some. Saul. I thought you did that. Me. Oh, me? No, I had surgery that prevents me from crapping out creamer. Bring your own. Saul. OP, you need to do your job. Me. I do my job. What do you do? Saul. OP. Me. No, Saul. What do you do? Don't say your job. Because your job isn't to pester someone to buy coffee supplies out of their own pocket, is it? Saul. Well, that's not very nice. Me. You're right, it's not very nice at all. It's also not nice to complain to Bob because I won't bring in my own personal property to work. Now is it? Saul. But we need coffee. Me. Then bring your own. This isn't my job. If you want creamer, then you need to bring it in yourself. I'm not supplying the coffee anymore. Saul. OP, I'll call Bob again. Me. Call him then. He'll tell you the same thing I just told you. And you'll have wasted your time, just like you've wasted my time now. I'm going home. Have a good one. I start walking out. Saul. Wait, come back. When I go in for my next shift, all the supplies are fully stocked, and they remain that way for good. Someone else has taken the responsibility of resupplying the coffee. I even noticed change in the jar regularly building up. I haven't contributed a single penny, but it's still filling up. Someone else has taken over handling the coffee supplies. I haven't asked who, but I think either Saul is doing it himself or he's got someone else doing it. It's free coffee for me, so I don't care either way. Alright everyone, I hope you're having a great day and that you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and keep a lookout for more of these little gems from Reddit. So long!